Thank you all for being here. I was doing okay. I'm trying to make it through this gathering, and this is not my strong suit. I talk to this group often, and usually I'm cutting up and I'm telling stories and I'm making jokes and I'm keeping it light and trying to be motivational. But when it comes to memorials for people you love, it's hard. And so I want you to be with me today. And I was doing okay, Kim, until I had to give a plaque to Shearer and look at her eyes. Shearer, you're wonderful. You know, I love you. Karen and I, we love you. We love Bruce. We thank you for adopting us and for your support of us through all these years. We thank you so much. Okay, let me begin with a March Madness story. I'm going to jump to the middle of this, my version of this story with March Madness. I'm going to go back to the beginning and then we will go to the end. And hopefully you will be able to stay with me as we do this. It will not be quite like Pulp Fiction. For those of you who will admit that you've watched that movie, I don't know if I've watched it or not, it's been a while. With that said, March Madness story. I was listening to a story about a young man who played college basketball at North Carolina. And if I told you his name, you would know him, and it's not Michael Jordan, who also played at North Carolina, and not James Worthy, Sam Perkins, or all those other greats who played at North Carolina. This young man came much later, and it's a story about Dean Smith, the late Dean Smith, an outstanding basketball coach, one of the best ever. To me, he's right up there with John Wooden, two of the best human beings and coaches of men's basketball at the NCAA level. And as the story goes, this young man was being recruited by a number of colleges, and he was planning to go to Georgetown because he knew John Thompson, and he thought that would be a great place to go. And the day before, so he comes home on this Tuesday. The day before, on Monday evening, he was watching the NCAA championships, and he was watching North Carolina play, and they won the championship. The next day, on Tuesday, he comes home. His mom is in the kitchen or the dining room talking to someone, and he notices that it happens to be Dean Smith. And he says, that couldn't be Dean Smith. Last night, they won the national championship. And today, he's in his dining room. He chose North Carolina, as would all of us, probably. I say that to go back to what Kim shared with you earlier. As I'm interviewing in 2006 to become president of Odessa College, Bruce Shearer came to pick me up at my mom's home. And he didn't have to do that. He came to South Odessa and he picked me up. And we've been on this amazing run for the last 20 years. Now let's go back to the beginning of this story. Let me name a few names for you. These are people who were serving on that board because it's really important. These people have helped to change Odessa in many, many ways, if we're honest about it. Ralph McCain. Some of the names you'll remember. Ray Ann Zant. There's a room we meet in with that name. Walter Smith. Former Mayor David Turner. Coach Presley. Sandra Shaw. Richard Avalos. Bruce Shearer, and the last remaining member of that board, Gary Johnson. They made a decision that evening that has helped, as I said, to change this community. If you think about it, at that time, my first term here, Dr. Munoz, you were here during that time. We were serving about 4,300 plus students. This last semester, we served over 10,400 students this last semester. They agreed to embark on this journey that was challenging, difficult, outside of the box. But they were willing to do it because, as Gary Johnson has shared with you, Bruce wanted to be a part of changing this community for the better. He wanted to be a part of making a difference. And I'll tell you a story about that here in a moment. But now let me go back to the early years. And my early version of Bruce Shearer was mostly through Robert Munoz. Dr. Munoz would tell me these stories because, again, as he said, we started together and we would talk on a regular basis. And he shared these stories about Bruce Shearer and about their work at Willie Tool and about what they did at Water Wonderland. And they would invite my family out. And again, we all were thankful, and you'll appreciate it here in a couple of months. We were all very thankful for Water Wonderland, if you know what I'm talking about. And for Bruce to do that was tremendous. And again, Robert shared those stories about how kind Bruce was, but I didn't really know Bruce. I knew him at a distance, and I read in the article, again, these pictures are not very helpful, by the way, if you're trying to make it through this presentation and keep your cool. Bruce started as a board member at the age of 54, the story wrote, and said, or the story read, and said that he takes a class every year at Odessa College. That is so cool. He didn't have to do that. He was accomplished. He had resources, as Sherry knows. He had done really well in life, but he wanted to learn, and he wanted to continue to grow and pour into his family. And family members, thank you for being here representing Bruce. We are so proud of each and every one of you. You all don't have to say anything. Bruce lived it each and every day. One of the kindest, best people I have ever known in my life. And he didn't have to be. To me, he didn't have to treat me that way, but he chose to. And we're thankful for that. So I divide Bruce's world in, for me, and again, this is not accurate by any means, but for me, the early years of Bruce and then the years I knew him as a board member. As Gary said, showed up every board meeting almost without absence. Committees showed up. Encouragement showed up. Board trainers showed up. And we're doing all these things and we're starting to become a nationally known college. Nationally known for more than simply Larry Johnson, Ty Mary, and our derivatives challenge. We began to be known for things that Aspen recognizes us and achieving the dream, and we're winning awards. And I come in and I'm excited. You know, I'm the president, and we're doing all this stuff. And again, Bruce, always kind. Always kind. And he said to us, and Gary remembers, and my team members remember because I repeat it over and over again because it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And we were showing the numbers, and we hadn't even started on this. Well, by the way, 13 record enrollments in a row for fall, 13 record enrollments for spring. I know I say it a lot because you all have earned it. It is wonderful. Bruce is a part of it. We would not be here without him. We hadn't even started that journey yet. Remember, I'm in year 20 now. But this was probably about year 6 for me. And Bruce says, what are you going to do now? And again, I'm thinking, look at all Bruce. Google us, you know. You wouldn't find much at that time, but, you know, I think Google. Bruce like, what you gonna do now? I'm like, damn. That's biblical, by the way. It's biblical. So we go in, and I go back into the lab, and I come back. By the time we get to the next board meeting and talking to our team members, we say, okay, Bruce, Shearer, we know we've only served, we started my time here at 4,000 students. We had then served about 6,000. We've accomplished this. He said, okay, Mr. Shearer, we will now serve 10,000 students in one semester. That would be our hairy, audacious goal, to serve 10,000 students in a semester, in a fall semester. We even said that. And that was ridiculous, if you think about it. The best we'd ever done was 5, and then we'd hit 6. And we said, let's do 10. Because Bruce Shearer challenged us. Again, that kind soul, the man of great support, the man of great comfort for so many, the master gardener. He challenged us. He planted a seed in us. And that is why that 10,000 mark was so important. Most people don't know that. Bruce Shearer was at the foundation of that. Bruce helped us to think that way. And again, me as a president, wow, that was wonderful for me. Because they were already thinking I was crazy. Because I was asking for so much. Now we get to ask for more. Now we get to do more. Now we get to really go for it. And that's what we did. And that's what this team has done. That was Bruce Shearer, board member. Helped to change this community. The third and final phase. Bruce Shearer, the man faced with illness. If you live long enough, most of us will have to deal with that. How are you going to show up in those situations once you are given a devastating diagnosis? How are you going to deal with that? What will you do? Bruce continued to show up, continued to work, continued to be one of the best board members we had. When he couldn't drive, he would have one of his fellow board members drive him to meetings, committee meetings, board meetings. Bruce Shearer continued to show up. And I know there were times Shearer tried to stop him. I bet, I know. Sherry's strong, by the way. If you don't know Shearer, you need to get to know her. Strong lady, one of the kindest people you'll ever meet, but she is tough as hell. Shearer, you know that's real. A beautiful person, my person. He continued to show up, continued with dignity. We were having an event at the park once, and we were trying to pass a law. And Bruce and Shearer came out, and Shearer walked with him through that park. Shearer, you remember. He came to get his t-shirt. He and Shearer. And then they stayed for a little while and they walked away. He didn't have to do that. That was Bruce Shearer. Let me close with a few words that I've heard said about him. And tell me if you can think to yourself whether you agree or disagree. Positive. Present. Genuine. You get the real deal every time with Bruce Shearer. Kind. Remember, a soldier, a fighter, an early adopter for computer work, a business person, but kind and supportive. Sweet. Servant. inspirational, considerate, more, always wanted to encourage us and others to do more. Helper, how can I live that in? That was Bruce. All in. Participant. Bruce didn't sit on the sidelines. Dr. Munoz, I remember in your office you had that inspirational speech about the man in the arena. You remember that back in the day? See, you didn't know I remember that. And that's who Bruce was. He stayed in the arena. He did not simply complain about those who were trying to get it done. He was a participant. Joyful. Service. Master gardener. He believed in making things better. Believed in improvement. Legacy. He stayed away from negatives. And the man had amazing grace. So with that, I once again thank Bruce Shearer for his service. I thank him for his kindness. I thank him for what he did for his family and his extended family. 30+ years of service on the Odessa College board when it wasn't easy. He started during the most difficult times, actually. He started during that moment of derivatives. When others would run away, Bruce ran towards the problem and then made that problem, that situation, one of the best, highest performing institutions in these United States. Thank you, Bruce.